Good morning and welcome to FinTech Week Tel Aviv 2021. It's been the culmination of 8 months' work, and this year is truly a global effort. As ever, our objective is to learn, engage, deliberate, look at ways of working together, and much more pertinent this year, in the aftermath of the Abraham Accord, it gives me great pleasure and pride that FinTech Week Tel Aviv, our 5th year, we have such cooperation and collaboration with the United Arab Emirates. So welcome, and we look forward to having you over the 4 days. Please do pop in as much as you can. Come and listen to our esteemed speakers. Network in our networking lounge, our virtual networking lounge, and check out our exhibitors. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Salmaan Jaffery, Chief Business Development Officer from the Dubai International Financial Center. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Super. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Johnny, for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum and shalom to everybody. I hope everyone is healthy and safe. Special guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time for asking me to present to you today. The DIFC, which is the Dubai International Financial Center, is incredibly happy to be represented here as a platinum sponsor and as the leading global financial center in the Middle East. It's focusing on the state of the industry and the market, and we can reflect on adoption and trends. I mean, there's, this speech runs the risk of trying to speak in detail on tech and innovation in the face of significant expertise in the audience. And so what I thought I would do today instead, by kicking off today's conversation, is to provide a bit of context on why is it that we have found ourselves in this situation at this pinnacle of innovation, and really talk about it within the context of what is a really interesting and emerging, exciting corridor relationship between Israel and Dubai and the UAE, of course. So the pandemic is a useful place to start simply because it is topical, it is on everyone's mind. And I think the first thing that has to be said is that both countries, the UAE and Israel, have done an exemplary job of managing what has been a very challenging global pandemic impacting economies and people all over the world. But I think as FinTech professionals, entrepreneurs, innovation people, it's clear that the pandemic has changed behavior. Now, e-commerce is up all over the world. Here, it's booming. Financial services, if it weren't digital already, people are rushing to replace analog behavior with digital behavior. But I guess my key message here is that it didn't start today. And I say this slightly jokingly for what I'm sure is a very young audience, but there is a little bit of context, and maybe I can spend a few minutes providing that context. Now, I'm not going to engage in a debate with the scores of computer science PhDs here on what's the real cause of the acceleration in the global digital agenda, and for FinTech. And if you ask consultants, there's 3 factors every year, and they always change. But in my mind, the S-curve in innovation, and which applies to FinTech as well, really comes from, in my view, cheap computational power, inexpensive storage, the rise of mobile telephony, and of course, the network effect. And let me start with talking about the network effect a little bit, because historically, to me, the network effect really becomes real with the rise of the internet age, the dot-com bubble. And I mean, I remember I was actually working, I had graduated from college, was working the day that Netscape went public. And if I could see you there, I would ask you by a show of hands who remembers that event. But that was important because it was the first time that people were forced to aggregate, develop communities, and ultimately develop a scale which I think led to ultimately to the decreasing costs in storage. And I, by the way, anecdotally was a participant in that dot-com boom. I was part of a business that was the first to sell original art online. But the key message there was that there was a new technology and there were new business models that were solving problems. So that was something that was very important. Naturally, in recent memory, the financial crisis was quite significant. Banks took a hit. Costs were under pressure. And I think the need to, both for wholesale and financial services, to employ technology, whether hardware or algorithmically or software-wise, to drive down efficiencies or to increase efficiencies happened. Mobile phones, of course, that story in Africa is well known, and I'll come back to that as a business model. Leapfrogging landlines. But really, I think the key message here is that there have been disruptions in the past, and what the pandemic has done is it has brought things to a very concise and sharp point. It's the sharp end of the spear. So we have context, so what? Look, I won't attempt to cover the complexity of global technology or trends, but let me reflect on the larger question of innovation, or fintech within the larger question of innovation, within the context of this new and powerful relationship between the UAE and Israel, and this important corridor between Israel and Dubai and the UAE. So what really matters when you talk about this kind of story? I think strategy, number one, strategy really matters, right? Israel's startup nation status is obviously well known. You guys obviously know it. But it didn't just happen by itself. Shimon Peres, who's considered, one of the godfathers and architects of this program, had to push to establish, programs that invested in entrepreneurship and R&D in conjunction with security apparatus. And to me, it was a specific strategy that enabled a small country, by its own definition, lacking natural resources, to lever up its capability in the global stage. And I think that's really important. And that's a nice transition to tell you about our strategy and how it's similar, right? Dubai is a small place, the UAE is a small country, but the leadership here decided years ago to take advantage of Dubai's open, tolerant ethos based on centuries of trading, and to diversify our economy and to reduce our reliance on hydrocarbons. So the idea of investing in sectors such as trade and hospitality and aviation and financial services happened. And the DIFC, the Dubai International Financial Center, was established. Now, probably a good time to introduce who we are. I mean, we were designed. The strategy was to diversify the economy and to do it by creating a financial free zone, a separate legal, regulatory, and financial carve-out, which promoted financial services based on English common law, independent courts, etc. And it was an unprecedented model for emerging market economic development. And the results have been incredible, right? I mean, 17 years today, we have 27,000 people who work here every day. It's over 3,000 firms, over 500 are regulated, 230 wealth managers, 180 banks, 100 insurance entities. I mean, $500 billion of wealth gets portfolio managed and relationship managed here, which is massive. $180 billion of assets are booked by our banks here. 100 billion extra assets are sold here, but booked elsewhere. Massive insurance sector. So as a result, we've been able to contribute 6% to Dubai's to Dubai's GDP. So strategy really matters. It's something which drives innovation. The other thing that matters is reinventing strategy, right? Your own journey in the innovation space has taken many, many interesting turns, starting from defense to cybersecurity to AI. And every time you've had to reinvent what constitutes success. Well, we've done the same thing. Despite enjoying tremendous success as a conventional financial service center, becoming the largest in the region, we decided to disrupt our own business, and we developed a fintech strategy. And this was driven by essentially two things, right? Innovative regulations and innovative product development that was client driven. So we were the first to develop crowdfunding regulations. We launched the region's first fintech accelerator called the FinTech Hive. We did partnerships with Startup Bootcamp. We had a $100 million fintech fund that was quite novel. Since then, we've launched the region's first comprehensive money services regulations. We have new venture capital regulations. We have a consultation paper out on security tokens. So reinventing is oneself, and reinventing the strategy is also pretty crucial. And now, by the way, our new growth plan is about the future of finance. So it's fintech transitioning into future of finance, which is really about, it's really exciting. It's about digitizing the local and regional economies. It's about collaboration. It's about platforms. It's about enablement. And that's really, really exciting, I think. So if strategy matters, if reinventing strategy matters, what else matters? Well, ecosystem matters, right? So I told you about this vast ecosystem of people, of professionals who work here. We've done the same in fintech and in the innovation space. You know, we have the region's single largest gathering of fintech firms, over 330, and increasing every day. We have tremendous resources invested here in our FinTech Hive Accelerator. You know, I think over 110 fintech firms have been through our accelerators. And last year, I think over 700 applications were received for a very, very competitive program. Startups here from our acceleration programs have raised over $300 million of funding. And today we have, as a result, we have over 50% market share, certainly in the GCC, and possibly larger, but it's hard to estimate exactly. So ecosystem really matters. At any given time, when you walk around the DIFC, you'll see on the one hand, bankers talking to lawyers and clients and corporates and accountants and lawyers about deals. These conversations are happening at coffee shops and restaurants. At the same time, you come to the Innovation Hub and you'll see whiteboarding between entrepreneurs and their employees and partners. You'll see conversations with venture capitalists. You'll see conversations with lawyers. So it's really, really exciting. As we reflect on what's driving fintech and innovation, what else matters? So strategy matters, reinvention matters, ecosystem is critical, people matter, talent matters, right? You know, both Israel and in this case, the DIFC have enjoyed success in their respective domains by really being able to aggregate talent and aggregating capital. And that is the secret sauce, right? People really matter. I've talked about the number of people who conduct their business here, who share ideas here, who debate and discuss the best outcomes for clients. But we also have taken that to the next level when it comes to formalizing it. So the role of the academy is very important. The DIFC Academy has multiple global programs in finance and law. That's an area of strength, and we are doing now the same in the innovation space. We're starting to get digitally oriented content regarding fintech and innovation, ranging from classes on blockchain to coding. All of this stuff is forthcoming. So that's really, really important. We're going to be investing based on models that we've seen in Israel on Future Skills Campus. The idea is to develop, a curriculum and a structure to be able to support, north of 20,000 people a year, help them become entrepreneurs, help them shape the future of finance. And this should sound familiar to my audience, because this is exactly what the Israeli innovation ecosystem has done successfully well. So all very, 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 very good lessons. So talent is really, really important. One outcome of this success is that safety and security are also really important, right? So in conventional financial services, it was important to have world-class regulations and laws on ultimate beneficial ownership, preventing terrorism financing, KYC, AML measures to the highest standard. And since the world is going digital and our financial services are going digital, naturally, those measures for safety and security also have to be digitized. And so a recent report by Microsoft highlighted cyber attacks increasing 30% first half of last year. I mean, that number is probably much higher, and everyone here has experienced on a personal level some semblance of attack. So to that end, we've also digitized how we think about protecting innovation, right? We launched last year the Global Forward Cybersecurity Program at DIFC with MasterCard and the regulator, our regulator, the DFSA. Sorry, I misspoke. We launched it this year. The Global Forward Cybersecurity Program with MasterCard. We take data management very seriously, and our data protection laws are designed to be best in class and to be compliant with leading standards such as GDPR. And one of the things that really is fascinating about success that Israel has seen is IP. We have amazing IP as well. So what else is important? I've talked about strategy. I've talked about training, ecosystem, people. Collaboration is super important, right? One of the reasons why this conversation is so amazing is that we need to continue to collaborate across sectors, across fields of specialty to make sure that we're getting knowledge in the best way. So let me move to close by reflecting on what we've said, right? So what is the shape of the industry? What is the shape of the market? Look, I've talked about strategy, I've talked about ecosystem, talked about safety and security, I've talked about collaboration and people. Ultimately, when we look at the success of fintech firms, the success we've seen is ultimately about delivering value to clients. Tech has never been an obstacle. The best fintech firms, I think, have been those that have the best resilient business models and that are exceptionally client-focused. And what we can do collectively to enable that is to, again, focus on the strategy, focus on ecosystems, nurture talent, collaborate, improve safety and security, financial crime readiness, make sure that we continue to move early and adapt. So in the spirit of that kind of comment, we invite all of our fintech partners here and in Israel to take advantage of the amazing opportunities that we see in fintech in MEASA, Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. I mean, you guys have amazing tech, amazing business models. Many of those have exceptional relevance to emerging markets, and we invite those models and those technologies to come and test and launch your businesses and add value to the region. Financials and corporates have been doing it for 17 years, and I think we're super excited about building that for the future of finance with our innovation partners. I feel it appropriate to conclude with citing quotes from our respective leaders. Your former president, Shimon Peres, called upon Israel's neighbors to join forces to create a startup region. I ask that we make that happen. Our own rulers and leadership, in particular, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President, Prime Minister of the UAE, ruler of Dubai, has obviously taken a keen interest in innovation and has talked about an objective to make innovation a culture and a way of life. And one of his quotes says, "To take a risk and fail is not a failure. The real failure is to fear to take any risk." And so I ask us all to, let's take some risks together. Thank you again for having the DIFC Open FinTech Week today. I look forward to a very, very fruitful and productive sessions over the next couple of days. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Salmaan, for sharing your thoughts on this this morning, and really enjoyed your talk. So if we could give a virtual round of applause, please, for Salmaan. There's an emoji button you'll see on the bottom of your controls. Please show your appreciation for Salmaan. Salmaan, thank you very much for opening FinTech Week Tel Aviv. We really appreciate you having you with us. It's a great honor, and I hope that we look forward to many more years of collaboration and working together. Thank you, Salmaan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're just going to get the next session on stage, and so please stick around, and we'll introduce the first panel of the day. So we'll be with you very shortly. Thank you again, Salmaan.